Alright, I'm going to try to do a short video about an adjustment I'm making to my radial flow filter. The problem is that I have anaerobic bacteria building up inside of here. I just opened it up a few minutes ago and there was lots of foam in there. So I obviously have an issue. I'm noticing occasionally getting more bubbles in the tank itself. This is my system here. There's the solids lifting tube, goes into the radial flow filter, and then it overflows out of the radial flow filter into a tank down here that I'm using as a sump, and then it's pumped back. I tee off of that pump that's going back so that I can drain it, do my clean outs there with a long hose, so I can drain the tank, do my water changes that way. I always have extra tap water so that I can pump it into the right back into my tanks. And these tanks are for holding mothers. I just got them established. And when the water comes back from, when the water comes back to the sump, it goes to this manifold here, and then through the barrels, through the buckets that have different combinations of stone, gravel, sand, crushed coral, and media balls. So back to the radial flow filter issue. I'm going to try to make a short video of a hack that I have for it that I think will work. Give it a try. So these are the tools I'm going to use. Just a regular drill. I used a 1-inch hole saw. Obviously, you could probably use almost any size. A Sharpie and a pair of tin snips. I just have this bolted on, so I'm going to remove that. I just used a stainless steel nut and bolt. When I originally made it, it's not going to matter now. So my goal here is I want to cut the bottom out of this pot and drop it down inside of here, but I want to leave the hole small enough to where it catches on this lip or somewhere just before it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the bottom of this out, flip it over, trace it onto here, then cut it out of here, and then I should be able to drop it in. Tin snips might be a better fit for the heavy plastic. I'm going to use a razor blade for this. As you can see, I veered off course there. I just flipped it around, came back the other direction. Pretty much use whatever you want for this part of the filter. If you do use one of these pots and you do cut it, be careful. They're actually actually the plastic is pretty sharp. I found out a second ago by holding on to that. It seemed like it may cut easily. Keep your fingers behind the blade. Simple enough. Now I could probably trim it up with a pair of scissors. I would imagine you could probably use scissors for this in the first place. The reason I decided to go back and trim this is because there's some sharp edges and I don't want any fish poo getting hung up on those sharp pieces that are hanging off of there. That seems pretty good. Pretty clean edge. Got the one divot that I took out. I took off the piece that was hanging just to prevent anything from getting caught in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over on here, and I'm going to reach down in there. I'm going to center it, then reach down in there and trace the inside. Just run around the inside of that with the Sharpie. One thing that I learned a long time ago is that a Sharpie doesn't really write well on a wet surface, so you want to dry that off first. Center it and mark it. Now I'm pretty aware of where my mark is, and looking at it, it looks like I'm probably going to need to cut just on the outside of that line in order for it to catch out here on the lip. Otherwise it might catch way up here or here. So I'm going to use a 1-inch hole saw and cut myself a fresh hole offset from the center. I should be able to make it around there, no problem. I'm going to make one pass before I get to exactly where I want. Trick with tin snips is you want there's a right and a left, usually red or green. There's some yellows too. The yellows are kind of split. You can go either direction with those. They're a little bit more difficult if you need it for a specific application. This is these are better for well, the side of the tin snips that's on the bottom, the piece that's on the bottom is going to lift up that side. So the reds will have just the opposite of this. The left side will be what is on the bottom. The jaws will be on the bottom. So what I'm doing is I'm cutting this direction instead of this direction, because instead of pushing down my piece, I want it lifted up and out of there, and it's easier to control. So now I'm going to make the correct pass. See how the bucket sits in there. Perfect fit. That's really nice for me. It gets the bucket down in there pretty deep, so I don't have to worry about it being too shallow. I can actually force it down into there to the next lip, which would be nice. And now I'm going to drill a few holes. I'm going to drill 4 holes around here with the 1-inch hole saw, just to keep air, make it to where air is able to get to each chamber instead of just the inside. Not going to worry about being too accurate. I'm just going to do 2 across from each other, and then do another 2 splitting those. Clean up those holes a little bit. Sure, a few extra pieces of plastic would make great biofiltration or great addition, but I don't want to deal with it in my system, possibly clogging the filter or pump or anything like that. That's it, pretty simple. I'm going to throw it back on there and see how it works. Okay, so back here at the radial flow filter, put the lid back on, and I think this is going to work well. So now, since I don't have the issue of it being sealed, I can actually lock the lid back down onto it. Now I can actually see what's going on as well. Maybe I can turn a light on in there and see how dirty it is without opening it. And then I can flush it. Maybe I can come up with some sort of stick or something to stick in there and spin it, you know, flush stuff around a little bit, swish it around a little bit when I go to flush it. And I think it'll, most importantly, I think I will have a reduction in the anaerobic bacteria that was in there, building up in there. Thanks for watching.